Hey guys, how's it going? This is Captain Energy. Welcome to the second video in the First Steps series for Reason. Today we're going to take a look at Reason and how things are connected to a combinator, what a combinator does basically. You may have heard of combinators. It's one of the biggest and best features in Reason. But what exactly is a combinator? You might be asking yourself. Well, it's kind of an interesting thing to describe. Basically, in Reason, there are racks, pretty much just like in real life, where in real life, if you had this synthesizer here, right here, and it was not a real keyboard, it would be on a rack. You'd mount it to a rack, and it would sit there, and you would control it from your software. And on the back of the rack, there'd be wires that you would run off to your mixer, which all happens here in Reason, just like it would in the real world. Now, if you took this synthesizer and you created a sound, I'm just going to load a sound in here real quick. I'll take a sound here. We'll load in this trance thin right here. Okay, and now I've got my synthesizer. Boom, done, right? Okay, well, not so much. Now say I want to add an effect to it. So go to my effects, and I go in and I grab myself this right here, the alligator filter gate. I drop that on there. Well, that's pretty cool, right? Well, now I want another effect in there. Maybe I want right here, the echo. Drop that on. So add that to the bottom here. And we'll turn that a little off so you can hear the... That's kind of neat. Well, now if I want to add this again, say I want to have more than one of this instrument, I would have to go back over to my instruments. I would have to drag out another analog synth here, another subtractor. Boom, drop that in. Then I'd have to go over to my effects, and I'd have to grab another alligator filter, and I'd have to grab another echo. You get the idea. Well, I'm deleting these. Combinators make it so you can make what I'll call a miniature rack. If you've ever played in a band in real life and bought yourself one of those little portable cabinets with rack rails inside, and you've put your equipment into one of those little boxes that you then wired up everything nice and neat to a sub mixer or whatever, and then just plugged your keyboard into that and then plugged that whole rig into the main mixer, you know what a combinator is. A combinator is essentially a little rack box. It's a little box of whatever you want to put in it. Now, to create one, we go to Utilities. Okay, and we go right over here. First thing in the Utilities is the combinator. I grab that and I drop it in. I'm going to put it next to this. Usually I keep everything going straight, but I'm going to put it over here just so we can kind of see it next to it. Okay, now it doesn't look like much. Looks like it's just another plugin, right? But it doesn't make any sound right now. Nothing happens when I press keys. What it is basically, I'm hitting the back so we can see the back of it. What it is right now is it's just this piece of gear basically that has a connection to the mixer. It's got an in and an out, and then it's got a send and a receive for effects if you want to put effects in that way. It's also got a few CV ins here. It's got a few other CVs up here. On the front of it, it's got 4 knobs, 4 buttons, and then right down here in this matrix area is where all the magic really happens. When I start adding things to this, they get listed over here on the left. So for example, first, because we're going to be putting stuff in here, usually the first thing I'll put inside of a combinator, I'm going to go to Utilities here, is a mixer. Now, you can go with the 6-2, or you can go with the 14-2. I usually go with the 14-2 just because it doesn't add a whole lot more weight to your Reason. It doesn't do much more as far as require much more processing power or anything, and it gives you more channels and more control, because on the 6-2, I'm going to bring one in just so you can see it, all you've got is volume and one auxiliary and panning. There's not a lot to them. They work fine for basic things, and that's great. But what I want is just a smidge more control. This gives me a treble and a bass. It's got me my left and right panning, and it gives me up to 4 additional effects on auxiliaries. Okay. Now, once I put it in here, you'll notice that up here, you'll see the mixer. Okay. Now, I'm going to add my next item here. I'm going to add a synth. I'm going to add the same synth we put over here. So I'm going to grab one subtractor from the instruments and I'm going to drop it in. Now, because we put the mixer in first, Reason knows that that's where things need to go. I'm hitting the back to look, hitting tab to go to the back. You can see that instead of wiring this to normally the sound input or the channel on the mixer, the main mixer, it's wiring it to this sub mixer we put in. Let's get that sound in here that we were using, which is the trance thin. Here's one. Got it right there. I'm going to drop it right in there. And we're already wired up. It's already wired up. Everything's good. Now, if I wanted to put those other things I put in, go to Utilities again. I'm sorry. Go to Effects. I went to the wrong thing. Wrong folder. I'm going to grab an alligator, drop it right here, and it's in there. It's inside. You can see it's inside this box here. Okay. And now it's joined in with the mixer, the subtractor, and we have the alligator. If we look up top, you can see a mixer. Here's the name of the patch, trance thin. And here's the subtractor. Okay. And you'll notice every time I click these, you still see these knobs over here. This top part changes to let you know what you're controlling, because as you go through these, now I can assign controls to these. Okay, to add the echo, I go over here to the echo. I grab this, hold down the shift key, drag it in, and drop it right here. Now, when I press tab, you'll notice it's not hooked up at all. Why am I doing it that way? Well, the reason I'm doing it that way is because I'm going to minimize this, kind of fold this down a little bit so you can see what's happening here. On the mixer, if I wire this subtractor and this alligator into this echo unit, this becomes part of this little line of items right here. If I decide to add another synth and I want to use an echo unit for that one, I've got to add a separate echo unit for that one. Each unit would require its own echo unit, and that ends up becoming kind of a waste of processing power. But what I can do here is I can take this and we go from this auxiliary right here. Let's see, go with the main input. There we go. Boom. So going from the main input right here, that's going from the out of the mixer to the main in. And then we're going to take right here, this is the into the mixer, and we go to the main out. And now what has happened here is we've wired up, I'm going to hit tab again, this echo, which is warm echo right now, to the first effect on your mixer, which means when I play, okay, I don't have any echo yet, but if I turn up the first knob here, you can hear that echo right there, right? Now, what is great about the Combinator, besides what I just showed you, is that, now first of all, okay, well, let me explain something here. If I decide that this is a thing I like, what I've got going on here is something I'm like, man, I'm going to use this all the time, or I even want to use it in just another project or whatever, I can just go right up here, hit save, give it a name. I'm just calling this one temp so I know what's going on here. Boom, temp. And now, if I want to, I can bring that back in. I can just go to wherever I saved it, and I can drag a new one in. Just drop it right here, and boom, all the instruments that we put in there are here again for a second device. So if it's something I want to reuse, or maybe I want to, create various patches here, various programs, I want to change this, and I want to go change this so it's or maybe I want to turn off the alligator on this one. whatever you want to do. It's like having multiple racks. So if you can think of, like I said earlier, imagine that hardware rack that you made for your band that you took with you for your guitar or for your keyboard or whatever, and imagine having that with you and then going, oh, I need another one, and just be able to go, poof, there's another one. You know, that would be amazing, right? Well, you can do that here. Now, aside from being able to do that type of thing, you can also add additional instruments to create layers. So, for example, if I go to instruments again, and we're just going to go down here, and I'm going to grab a radical piano. I'm going to drop this right in here. Okay, right here. Boom, dropped in. If I look at the back, you'll notice the radical piano patched itself automatically to channel 2, and that's perfect. That's what I wanted to happen. Now, if I go over to, let's go to my sequencer here so I can find the right one because I'm on the wrong. Here we go. Let's get this piano. Hear that? And that's what I'm telling you. So now we have another layer in there, another instrument, which we can mess with this and change the way it sounds, do whatever you want, and come back, and now that's in there. And if you look at the top here, you can see each device listed. Now, here's where we get really crazy. This is where we get to program these devices from the Combinator. And by that I mean, we can really take control of them here. We can take this piano, and we could say that we don't want it for all the keys. We only want that to kick in after C4. So I go down here and I go to the key range, and you have the low and the high. So I take this and I turn this up to C4, and there we go. Now, see that? I'm in C3, or the C3's octave. And I hit C4. You can also tweak it so that it's pitched different, so that even though it's up high like that, like if you're playing on those notes just to get there, you can tell it to transpose down so that see what I'm saying? So I can control where it plays the keys. I can put my sound in anywhere I want. I can go to this rotary here, rotary 1, which is right here, okay? And I can say that rotary 1, I'm going to change this to brightness, okay? Or bright. We'll just call it bright. And rotary 1 on the piano, I'm going to tell it to go to the, we'll go with a mid gain right here. And we'll tell it that the minimum is 0 and maximum is 18 decibels. Now, hear that? Now it's controlling the piano. But what about this other synth, this trance thin? What can I do there? Let's click that. I can tell it with the same controller to go to my performance and control the mod wheel. Or I can tell it to be, let's see, let's change it to something else that makes a little more. We'll go to the filter frequency here. We're going to go right for this filter frequency, and we can also change this one to be a rotary 1. You can change these whatever you want them to connect to right over here on the left. So I'm going to change this one also to filter, and we're going to go for filter 2 frequency. So now You can of course map this to your keyboard. I can change the limits so that maybe I can't go above, we'll say halfway. That's about halfway, 60. On the frequency modulation on the, there we go. And maybe I start at a higher number. We'll say we start at 30-ish. 30. We'll take this to 30 also. There we go. Isn't that cool? So you can do all these crazy things right here. You can also attach the buttons right here to control different things. That's just a couple very quick examples of what you can do with a Combinator. I mean, in reality, the possibilities are endless. You can even actually customize these so that they look a little different, which I can get into. If you guys want to know how to do that, leave me a comment below, and I'll be happy to show you how to create your own skins for these. But I'm going to hide. I'm going to hit right here. I'm going to show programmer, turn that off so the programmer hides. And I'm going to hit show devices. Close that so you don't see the devices. Now all you'll see of this whole thing right here is this. So if I save this, okay, boom. Yes, I want to replace it. Now I go back over there. PC, we're going over to audio, going to patches. I'm actually going to bring this over here. This is another little tip. Actually, if you grab a folder and drop it on like that, it becomes a shortcut, so now you can get there quicker. But if I go over here to patches and we go to Combinator and I grab temp, it should, boom, pop just like that, and there it is. Same exact instrument. Isn't that awesome? Well, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope that was helpful. That's a Combinator in a nutshell. It's a real quick run through of how to use a Combinator. There are so many things you can do with a Combinator. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm happy to really go crazy with the Combinators and show you more and more about these, but this is one of the most powerful features in Reason. And there are other tools that do similar things in the world of VSTs. I did discover a couple recently. Thanks to one of my subscribers, shout out to Steve. There's a product called Unify, which does very similar things to the Combinator, but not, it does the same kind of things, but it's not as, I'll say, as pretty as a Combinator. The Combinator is a lot more visually, there's a lot more visual feedback in my opinion. Unify is quite nice though, and you can do some really cool stuff. Like, I mean, you can pretty much set up backing tracks and everything with an instrument. That's a whole nother level actually than you know, the Combinator. But the Combinator is quite nice right here in Reason. So if you're using Reason, it's a good way to go. I hope that was helpful to some of you guys. If it was, please don't forget to click the like button, share this with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I've got a lot more tutorials coming, and I would love to have you guys come along for the ride with me as I grow my YouTube channel and continue to support the community. I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one. Have an awesome day. Take care.